welcome on back to the 4th and 30 podcast. Glad to have you again with us this week. Had some good games last week and had some big things happen in other sports that we'll get to. But as always, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's right there. It's red, about this big on your screen, down in Cody's section. But go ahead and do that, and we appreciate that. Go ahead and watch this on YouTube if you want to. We prefer that's where you watch it, so you can see our facial reactions and stuff. But anyway, we had some big events happen last night. You'll notice Kai is in a particular kind of jersey. The Atlanta frickin' Braves. The baby Braves finally grew up. So, Kai, how excited are you there?
Well, I mean, it was a fun series to watch. Really, all the playoffs was. But a lot of people talk about how the Braves only won 88 games, and yeah, that's true. But they proved over the last, they've had one of the best records in the game since they made those trades at the trade deadline, and so they just proved it wasn't a fluke. I mean, you could argue that. A lot of people say the Astros had the best offense, but I think you could make an argument that the Braves lineup was deeper. I mean, Dansby Swanson hitting in the 9-hole, hitting a home run and the game tying home run in game 4 to go up 3-1, and then it was a 3-0 game last night in the game deciding game after Soler put his stamp on it. But that Swanson homer was just as big. I mean,
pretty much put the nail in them.
Extending a 3-run lead to a 5-run lead without the Astros scoring is pretty huge in that game. And you can't say enough about their bullpen and Max Fried. I mean, Tyler Matzik deserves a lot of the credit. There was a pivotal point in the Dodgers series where the series was 2-1 and they had runners at second and third, nobody out. And if Matzik doesn't come in and strike out the side there, that series could have turned on a dime. So Tyler Matzik is an unheralded MVP in my eyes. He was just some of the best bullpen pitching I've ever seen.
There was nobody out in that scenario too, right? He struck all three of them out.
Second and third, nobody out. He strikes out Pujols, pinch hitter, I can't remember who it was, and then Mookie Betts. So it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, and they knew it was coming too. He just blown it by him.
Yeah, that was one of the greater relief performances. Like, he had a couple of them in this postseason run. And speaking on the Braves, 88 wins?
Yeah.
What they had? 88 wins. That team, talent-wise, is way beyond 88 wins. They just struggled all year long with d'Arnaud out for a while, which they have a serviceable backup, but you've talked about it before, Kai. When you had a new catcher, it messes with your pitching. Their pitching struggled when d'Arnaud was hurt. And they had some injuries here and there everywhere. They lost their MVP candidate in Acuna. So that's a scary thing, having him back next year. Kai and I were talking last night. They've got 5 starting caliber outfielders going into next year. They're going to have to let one of them walk probably. But when it comes to their lineup, for as amazing as their defense and pitching was in the World Series, it was, they were, other than Swanson having a couple of errors, their defense was amazing. But when Jock Peterson is your 10th best bat on your team's pretty darn good on offense as well. He's a 5, 6, 7 hitter for most MLB teams, and he was legit the 10th best bat on that team. And so the talent was there, and they just got hot at the right time. And I don't think it was a surprise to your average fan who only looks at, they won their division with 88 wins. But when you see what they went through all year long, you look at the talent on their roster, that was a World Series championship team. And there's not much better than beating the Dodgers and the Astros in back-to-back series to win it. The Astros are renownedly hated, and the Dodgers are they're like the Cowboys of the MLB.
And at the beginning of the season, it wasn't a far-fetched idea that the Braves would win it anyway, right? And so, yeah, they struggled midway through, but that was because they were just so darn injured. You saw the Cardinals obviously were not in that same conversation as the Braves. Nobody thought they were going to the World Series this year. But you saw the Cardinals struggle with it and come back, and the Braves were just able to do it better. And the Braves front office did it better by a lot. So a lot of credit to that organization. First win in 26 years. That's a big deal. It's a big deal for Atlanta. It's a big deal for the Braves in general. It's good for baseball because all those Braves players are young. So it's good for baseball to have young guys like that in a big market area that's not LA or New York, or it's good for baseball in the long run. So
Yes, it is.
and you can play baseball almost year round down south. So this it's just really good. But we're gonna move on
Hey,
from the
real
Braves.
quick.
Go ahead.
Has no one said anything about this before? I'm sure it's happened, but how many times has it happened where you don't have to face an elimination game throughout the playoffs?
I couldn't tell you. It
Yeah,
does
I'm
happen.
curious
I'd
as to
have,
how
I'd have
many
to look
times.
it up, but
There's one more Braves thing. I just want to see Kai's face to this. 7th in the way too early power rankings.
Yeah, that guy should be fired. He should be let go immediately. That's pathetic.
I
It
don't think they
was
should be first,
surprising.
though. To be fair,
No,
That's
they
fine
shouldn't be
not to
five.
have him first, but
they're definitely top 5. No,
Yeah.
there's no doubt they're top 5, but
All right.
probably
fire,
top
fire him.
4th, 5th, something like that.
All right, Cody. We're gonna do the good, bad, future stuff again. Why don't you go ahead and hit us with whichever one of those three you want to hit us with?
I'll just go with the past, like we've been doing, the good. I mean, from last week in the NFL. I love a good underdog story. I was as big a Jeremy Lin fan as you can have. The story of some of these guys who get their chance, and Mike White's story this last week, pretty awesome. Shouts out to the bettor who put $1,000 on him to lead the league in passing for this week. What a ballsy bet. I mean, you've got to have kahunas on you to make that bet. And it paid out $125K for him. But I don't think there's any question that Zach Wilson, the dude in New York, moving the high draft pick, that's their franchise guy. But Mike White, he struggled against the Patriots, but he came in halfway through the game. You're playing against the Belichick defense. And then last week, just straight up, he just balled out. I mean, they knocked off the number 1 seed in the AFC, and
Tom Brady scenario.
yeah, somebody was that you that put it in group chat?
One of us did. It was on Twitter everywhere.
The Jets.
Tom Brady scenario.
To explain it,
The only difference is Mike White's 26 years old, unfortunately.
Yeah, but for those who didn't see the meme, the Jets injured Drew Bledsoe, which led to Tom Brady, and then the Patriots injure Zach Wilson, which leads to Mike White, who has had a pretty good game and a half. The half game wasn't great, but the full game against Cincinnati was good. And so, it's not something to expect going forward. I wouldn't put him in my fantasy team for the next couple weeks, but I love when underdogs do stuff like that. Same with dude in Dallas coming in and having a good game to get them that gritty win there. Oh, and win me the Eliminator. Thank you, everybody. Eliminator champ.
Oh yeah, congratulations, Cody.
I've got it wrote down.
How did the Ravens come back and beat the Colts? That's what I want to know.
All right, so before we get too far off,
He should have been out.
Before we get too far off, Cody mentioned
Jets.
the Cowboys already. Well, Cody mentioned the Cowboys. That's my good for the week. Not so much the quarterback, but just the team getting that win against a pretty solid Vikings team with your backup quarterback. I know there's a lot of questions about the Cowboys. I know people don't think they're for real. I think take out who I think is a top 7 quarterback and still get the dub against a team that I think most of us think is a top 12 to 15 team. I think that's big for the Cowboys going forward.
That was
that was that was impressive win. I mean, when you can go out and win a road game with your backup quarterback, your team's for real. Especially against a Vikings team who, not a great record, not a bad team, still with playoff hopes, and really wanting a win at home. That's a pretty impressive victory. The defense has shown up, and they're back to playing Cowboy football like they were, when they were real good a few years ago.
Yeah, that game was the proving point for me with the Cowboys. I text my cousin who's a Cowboys fan who's been awfully mad at me in the power rankings the last few weeks. And I stand by this. I still think the Cowboys will cowboy, but it's not going to be for lack of talent. It's not going to be for how good they are. It'll be something, another DUI charge like they had a couple weeks ago, or something, or maybe maybe even an unfortunate injury that nobody wants to see. But something will happen to the Cowboys where they're probably going to make the playoffs, but it's not Super Bowl or bust like they want to think it is.
You guys kind of hopped me on the Jets. And, I was high on the Jets preseason, right? Like we all saw that. It's back on YouTube if you guys want to pull it up. Obviously, a little bit wrong there. But let's look at who the Jets have beat this year. All right. So before last week, before the Patriots beat the Chargers, the Jets were the only team in the AFC East that had beat somebody with a winning record. So, like, it's there. They just have to find it. Like, I'm not saying that they're a playoff team. I'm not saying anything like that, but it's there. They just have to find it. But anyway, yes, the Cowboys did a good job playing without Dak, and that actually leads into my future. I'll go ahead and touch on it a little bit. My future is teams without stars, right? So you lose your guy. And what does your team look like without that person? So we have 2 games for sure next week and one that's kind of a maybe. So Packers versus Chiefs, right? So Aaron Rodgers out with COVID. That's a big deal. So we'll get to see how Green Bay looks without their star. The Titans versus the Rams. We'll get to see how the Titans look without their star. Like, without question, the most
they'll be without
important
him
person.
for the rest of the year.
And then, the Cardinals, if Kyler Murray can't go because of his ankle, I think he's questionable, but he might play. But if he goes down early or something, what do the Cardinals look like without Kyler Murray? So, like, it's a fun week to see that. It's unfortunate situation or circumstances that we're getting to see that. But it's a good week to see where, some of those top tier teams kind of fall without their big name.
We might see the Cowboys without Dak again, too. I think he's still questionable right now.
He is. He was questionable or limited in practice today.
But anyway, Kyler, what's your good? Or was it the
Well,
grade?
You guys took like 3 of them, so I'll just go with the next best thing. Steelers got a big win over the Browns on the road. I mean, what do you guys make of this? Because you can go one of 2 ways here. I'll say this about the Steelers because I watch them every game. Slowly, their offense is clicking more and more each week. Now, they didn't put up a bunch of points last week, but they were much more efficient. They controlled the time of possession. And that's the kind of football they want to play. It kind of reminds you of the 2000s with Ben Roethlisberger. Play defense, run the ball, play action, and you're seeing Ben play a lot better as well, making more. He's getting more time to throw. They still have a long ways to go, but this team's trending in the right direction.
Yeah, the Steelers was my good this week as well because that's just kind of a culture win for Pittsburgh, right? Going into Cleveland, taking care of business, like that's where Cleveland kind of struggles. They're not in that spot. Baltimore's kind of not in that spot either. Like Pittsburgh has this aura about them. They're like, hey, we're not an easy out, right? And yeah, you guys might have all the hype and all this stuff, and we're having a kind of a down year, but we'll still come in there, run what we do best, and probably still win, even without a kicker, and it looked hairy there for a while. But you touched on it. Your O-line is starting to come together. They really are. Najee Harris, he was able to find holes, and like his stat line doesn't look overly impressive, but like if you watch the game, he was a difference maker in that game. 26 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown. Like that's not overly impressive, but if you watched it, he's a big reason why they won. Big Ben, as much as I hate to say this, is a big reason why they won. He, completed some key third down plays. And then that one touchdown, I don't know how to say this guy's name, that tight end.
Pat Freiermuth. He's a sleeper.
What a catch. Holy crap.
That was a great catch.
That was a great catch.
So, go ahead.
You guys both touched on it. Pittsburgh's going to go as the usage of Najee Harris goes up. He's a stud. Big, bruising running back that can also, has good speed, has good shiftiness. And at this point in time in Big Ben's career, if he throws the ball 50-plus times, they're not going to win the game, or they're going to struggle to win the game. You've got one of the best defenses in the NFL. use it. Use that defense. Let them get a 3 and out. Let them get a key stop. Run the ball. Let them rest on the sideline. Let them be at full strength or full stamina when they come back in. Use Najee Harris, and then use what Najee Harris does to make it easier on Big Ben. When the threat of Najee running the ball 20, 30 times a game is there, it's going to open up more time for Big Ben. It's going to give him more time to pass the ball, better blocking, less guys to block if they're not sending everybody every play. And I think that's just I think Tomlin and the rest of the coaching staff is starting to slowly figure that out, and that's a good thing for the Steelers moving forward.
When I watch the Steelers, Najee Harris is a beast. Like, you were excited about him before the season. He is a beast. There was a 4th and about 1.5 last week against the Browns. And I'm not kidding. He was hit at least a yard behind the line of scrimmage in the backfield. And he got the 4th and 1.5. Carried guys for about 2.5, 3 yards. Your O-line is better. Your O-line still is not very good. The right side of your line, it's kind of impressive. I sent this in the group. When he runs off the right tackle, Najee Harris averages 9.7 yards per carry. In between the right tackle and right guard, 3.11. In between the right guard and center, 4.42. And he doesn't average over 3 or doesn't even average 3 yards a carry anywhere on the left side of the line. So you guys can run right, but you can't run left. The O-line is still the biggest problem for Pittsburgh because Ben has to have time to throw the ball. He can't get away from anyone at this point in his career. And you guys have to be able to run the ball to control the clock. But your defense is so good, it's going to keep you in games. If your O-line can just be serviceable and give Najee some room to run the ball, you guys will win games. But it's just
Pittsburgh only allowed 2 sacks last week. I mean, it was
No, and they were in pass block win rate, or the time that Ben had to throw, he had the 4th most in the league on Sunday, according to.
But when you run the ball 26 times, that's why. I mean, that helps that a lot.
Right, and that's their ticket to winning. And their offensive line, yes, it still needs to improve, but you've seen improvement each game, which is a good sign. And another thing the offense does for them, it makes that defense even better. So, obviously their recipe is the offense just keep getting better, and they can be a threat, but
well, the defense is already
yet.
there. I mean, the defense is a Super Bowl caliber defense. They just need the offense to come along, and it can be slowly and surely at this point in time, but the offense has to get there.
The AFC is clearly not a sprint right now. You've got time to figure it out.
It's wide open.
all right. Who wants to give us a bad?
So I'll go right into my bad because my bad's the Cleveland Browns. I think this might be the second week in a row that my bad's the Cleveland Browns, but a team that had Super Bowl hope, and now I honestly don't know if they'll even make the playoffs at this point, the way things are going. It just seems to get worse and worse for them, to be honest. I don't know. They do not look anything like what we expected them to look like this season. Against the Steelers, they didn't at all. They haven't for the last 4 or 5, pretty much the entire season. I don't know. You can't even explain it, honestly. Unless they're running the football, they're not doing anything right.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers are a pretty good team at stopping the run. I wouldn't say they're the best, and the Browns kind of went away from it, and they tried to spread the Steelers out and throw the ball, and I think that was just a bad coaching decision looking back at it, because the Browns are the best running team in the NFL. I think you should stick with what you do, because Baker, honestly, I don't believe at this point Baker Mayfield's the answer at quarterback. It'd be one thing if you had, Herbert or somebody like that back there, but it's Baker Mayfield. This guy is not proving to be the guy that can spread a team out and beat you with his arm. He's really at this point.
He's serviceable, but
he's a play action
he can't do it on
quarterback
his own.
right now.
He's the best option they've had in decades, though. So
Tyrod Taylor? Anybody? I'd take Tyrod Taylor right now.
Over Baker?
Oh, yeah.
It's close, but Baker's younger. I wouldn't. There was no way I would say, here, we're going to give this team to Tyrod. It's not like
they would be a playoff team
better.
with Tyrod, hands down.
Tyrod Taylor has holes in his lungs. How the hell is he supposed to play football?
Well, pre-whole lungs.
He was doing pretty good in Houston at the beginning of the season.
Pre-whole lungs.
Cleveland does look rough. And, they obviously have some locker room issues going on with all the stuff about OBJ, and they didn't trade him. Now they might cut him. I don't know. I don't know what their answer is. The Browns are going to Brown, I think is how we would say that on this podcast.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
The thing about OBJ to me though is OBJ physically and talent wise is great. There's no denying that. Off field stuff, throw all that out the window. From a talent perspective, OBJ has it all. But the Browns don't use him. I mean, he's a wide receiver one at 75% of teams in the NFL. And granted, they have Jarvis Landry, who is great as well. They don't use OBJ. They don't target him at all. I don't know if that's a Baker Mayfield thing. I don't know if that's a system thing. I don't know if that's an OBJ thing because I don't watch the Browns enough to know. But he's not like them cutting OBJ doesn't really mess with what they do at all. And if he's a distraction in the locker room, then it might actually benefit them.
but he might not be the distraction in the locker room. It could be the Browns creating that distraction around him.
So the craziest thing is Jarvis Landry and OBJ right now. Forget about the tight ends who are targeted more. OBJ and Jarvis Landry might be their second and third options at receiver, not even their one or
Well,
one and two. Like,
they both missed a lot of games.
yeah. Landry was the man though before he was injured in Cleveland. I don't know why Baker and OBJ have never been on the same page.
Alrighty. My bad is this guy has the most unfortunate name in football, man. Chris Blewett, the kicker for the Washington football team. Buddy, I am sorry. Like, you should have chose another profession, dog. Like, your name cannot be Blewett, and 3 of your first 5 kicks in the NFL ever get blocked. You can't. What is
That's
you
rough.
doing, baby? Like, you can't do that. One of them didn't even clear his lineman. Like, he's in his own head, and buddy, you're having a bad time. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, that's rough.
There's not much to add to that. It's just unfortunate. His parents should have looked out for him. The second he started getting college looks out of high school, his parents said, "Hey, we're gonna have to change your name because if you keep getting better, this is gonna go south in a hurry." But yeah, it's a meme at this point.
Be a good jersey to own because he's probably not going to make it past this year. All right, who else has a bad for us?
I've got one. Mine is Arizona Cardinals squandering that opportunity they had on Thursday Night Football.
Shout out Brian Cole.
Yeah, shout out Brian Cole. I still think that the Arizona Cardinals are still legit. They're a great team. They're top tier in the NFC. But you get Green Bay coming into Arizona on a primetime game, and Green Bay doesn't have their top 3 wide receivers, and you don't close that game out. No, that's a playoff game right there. That's a divisional round game. And you let Aaron Rodgers and 120-year-old Randall Cobb carve you up.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers didn't even really do anything. I don't think he completed a pass over 10 yards.
Yeah.
I don't think he had one completion over 10 yards in that game. It was pound the ball, don't let the Cardinals score. I don't know. It was a wild game to watch.
Hopkins with the hamstring, Murray with the ankle. Like, yeah, you can argue there was
stands.
You can argue that there was people out on the Packers side, but there was people that were gimped up on the Cardinals side too. So it'd be a good matchup to see again, like full strength. It'd be a good game. So, and it wasn't a bad game by any means, but
no, it was a good game to watch. It was just
AJ Green turns around and it's a different story.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and the Cardinals started that drive on their 1-yard line.
Yeah.
So as bad as they probably should have won the game, that was pretty impressive last drive by Kyler Murray, and that kind of proves it. That kind of makes me believe in them that they have what it takes to be a competitor.
And right before that, too, the Packers were about to score, and the Cardinals stopped them on the 1-yard line. And I think the Packers had, 3 opportunities inside the 10 and didn't score on any of them or something like that?
3 opportunities at the 1, I think, is what it was.
It's something like that. So, I mean, there was still some good stuff from that, but yeah, they should have won that game.
You got bad?
My bad is I'm going to stay in the AFC North and go with the Cincinnati Bengals against Carl's Jets. So,
Come on now.
The goddamn
Be-
Jets.
I mean, Bengals just thrashed the Ravens. Maybe they had a little bit of a hangover game here. Trap game. Definition of a trap game. But if you want to win your division, those are games that you need to win. And that's a tough loss for the Bengals. I don't think I still think they're talented. I think they have a shot, but they might be looking back at that game come January and say that killed us. That's one of those.
Yeah. If you have aspirations to make the playoffs, you're absolutely right. You cannot have a loss to the Jets on there. Like, especially since everybody said you were maybe a fringe wild card team anyway at the beginning of the year. You're trying to prove people wrong. You proved your point against Baltimore, and then you erase the whiteboard when you lose to the Jets. Like, you just can't do that.
Yep, I was loving them trending up in our power ranking. I was ready to not crown them as the best, as the number one team, but I was thinking, maybe these guys are top 5. Maybe they are, and then that loss, that's just a bad loss.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The AFC. Give me your top 3 in the AFC.
I don't want to.
Bills.
Like, what are you saying? Top 3 to make it to the Super Bowl, or just
No, who's your top 3 in the AFC right now? Off the cuff.
Mine is Bills, Titans before they got hurt, or before Derrick Henry got hurt, and yep, it. Bills.
I would say Bills, Titans, Ravens, but the Titans have an asterisk now. Bills, Chargers, Ravens. I guess I don't know.
Chargers.
Yeah.
Last couple weeks.
That's
that's where we're
the
at
AFC
though. Like,
is right now.
who else are you gonna put up there? The
Like
Raiders.
Raiders.
Everybody came up
Chiefs
with
might be on the edge of that. I don't know.
Everybody came up with the Bills, who don't really have a statement win yet this year.
Yeah,
They've lost.
They beat up on the
They've
bad
lost both
teams.
good games that they've been in, the Steelers and the Titans. So, the Titans have lost to the Jets, so it's like, The Ravens have lost to the Bengals, who just got beat by the Jets. Like, that's not. It's just kind of like the AFC is just stupid this year, and
nobody trusts the Raiders.
The NFC was kind of stupid last year, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So it might be good for the AFC, but it is just a wild damn ride right there in the AFC this year.
Dude, throw the Patriots in there.
No.
How about that? How about them Patriots?
So I saw something today.
The Steelers, the Chiefs are right in the middle of it.
I saw something today that there's only 5 teams or 4 teams in the NFL with a top 10 offense and defense. The Rams are one of them. I think the Bills were the other one. Maybe the
Bucks.
Cardinals. I don't remember the Bucks maybe. And the Patriots were the 4th team. They have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense.
When you've got to play the Jets twice already this year and you hung 90 combined on them, like,
yeah,
does that really count?
No, I don't think it does. I don't think the Patriots are legit, but that is an interesting stat.
You're just your new Chargers fandom. You're just trying to defend that loss, that it was a good loss.
Why are you wearing that jersey?
I was mouthing my brother-in-law the other day, though, because quick trivia question. There's never been a team with a top 10 offense or defense to miss the playoffs. But
Beside the Chargers,
a top 10 offense and defense. Excuse me, I stated that wrong. Top 10 offense and defense to miss the playoffs. And the Chargers in 03, something around there.
They had the best offense and
number 1 offense and number 1 defense missed the playoffs.
32nd ranked special teams.
If Sorensen plays another snap for the Chiefs ever, I'm becoming a Chargers fan. Cody Stoneburner.
Yeah. So you might as well go ahead and take that jersey off.
From Cody Stoneburner, enjoying an ice cold soda in my new tumbler. So we have some insubordination happening, and I don't appreciate it on this podcast. So, Cody, you've got some splaining to do.
The truth will come out in time. That's all I have to say.
So he's saying that he will tell us in time that he's a Chargers fan.
It depends how much more Sorensen plays for the Chiefs.
He's gonna come onto the podcast next week dressed as Boltman. just full gear. All right. Does
All
anybody
right.
have a bad left? I
We
don't think
went
so.
through all of them. We went through all of them, and I don't really want to spend any time on this, but don't drink and drive. Just don't do
Yes.
it. It's
Yes.
2021. Don't do it. There's no reason for it. There's other options. Don't do it.
And even if you're sober, don't drive over 150 miles an hour. It's
Yeah,
not a good
there's no
idea.
reason to
Like,
drive 150 miles
it,
an hour either.
it's reckless. All right. So
Moving
the
on to
future.
future. Okay, I've got the first one because I feel like somebody else may have this one. My future is the future of the LA Rams this year. Addition of Von Miller. Like, that's a scary, scary, scary team. Scary front seven with the best corner in the league. They're going to be tough to beat. You know, my best team in the NFL, or my pick for best team in the NFL, just got an all-pro level defensive pass rusher, end linebacker, whatever, outside linebacker, whatever you want to call him.
What's your favorite Halloween candy, Cody?
Reese's peanut butter cup.
Okay. Sean McVay treats draft picks like you probably treat Reese's peanut butter cups. You eat all them babies first and they're gone. Like he's just like, I
He
don't want
might have.
these. This is future me problem. I'm dealing with me right now. Like
He might have just given away a second and third round pick for a guy for a half a year. And while Von Miller's still a great player, he's not an all pro level player anymore. He might be a Pro Bowl level player at this point in his career if he stays healthy. But he might have just traded his second and third round pick for a guy for a half a year.
they
It's
have 4
crazy.
draft picks next year.
They're definitely
The
going
Rams,
all in. If this was a
the
hand of
Rams,
Texas
the
Hold'em,
Rams' future
McVay
is in
just
trouble.
he put all his chips in. It's a bold strategy to use in the NFL.
And see, this is sometimes that stuff I find hard to put into perspective for myself. Being an NBA first guy, Von Miller in NBA standards, he is a couple first rounder and a couple second rounder, even at this point in time in his career, worth of draft picks. In the NFL, he's probably a fifth and a sixth round pick, which just those two don't correlate to me very well. You know, you see which more guys on the field in football, the value decreases a little bit, yada yada yada. But you guys are Sean McVay, not a big fan of draft picks. If the OKC Thunder played football, they would have all of the Rams picks, all of them.
I was trying that 50. There's more people that play football thing. I was trying to explain that to my wife last week. So when the Steelers didn't have a kicker, she's like, "Well, why don't they have a backup kicker?" I was like, "Well, 53-man roster. You figure you've got 22 starters, but then they each have a direct backup. You're already at 44. You get some extra people in there. You have a kicker, a punter, a long snapper. It's like it just fills up really fast." But I was like, and it's stupid that they don't have somebody who can kick the ball, whether it's a wide receiver that did it in high school or anything. But like, gotta have somebody who can kick the ball.
Yeah, and he proved he couldn't kick the ball real quick on his first kickoff.
All right, who else got future?
My future is going to be Titans Rams, and it's obviously Rams adding Von Miller, Titans playing without the best player on their team, undisputed best player on their team. How good will the Rams look? How bad will the Titans look? I think it's a good first test for the Titans without Derrick Henry. See where they'll gauge where they'll be a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, this season just got a lot better for the Colts and a lot worse for the Titans. Because I mean, Ryan, say what you want about Ryan Tannehill, he's got his shot now because this is going to be his offense now. He's going to have to perform. He's going to have to step up his game. They've got the receivers to do it. You know, they've got McNichols, backup running back. He's not Derrick Henry, nowhere even close. They're going to be doing a lot more spread offense, and that's not really their identity. So I think it's going to be a tough road for the Titans. They get a big test right off the bat. You know, maybe it would have been better for them to play a cupcake first, but it's a big test. Ryan Tannehill is going to be tested, and we're going to see what he's made of.
Yeah, for sure. They did sign Adrian Peterson, which, you know, it's old Adrian Peterson. But, you know, when you lose the best running back in football at the moment, it's going to be rough. I don't know that Tannehill can keep up without that run game. I really don't. So I'm a big fan of the Rams in that game. It's just the Titans are going to struggle. That's all there is to it. And
I still
you
think
mentioned cupcake game. They lost their cupcake game. And then, the Colts, they shot themselves in the foot. They really Carson Wentz themselves because they've already lost to the Titans twice this year. And now they're without Derrick Henry, but you're down 3 games in the division. Like, man, I'm sorry, but you don't win the tiebreak scenario. You don't, like, that sucks. That sucks.
I think the Titans are still going to win the division just because of that. If they hadn't already beat the Colts twice, it'd be a different story. But it's a really tall hill to climb at this point.
So I'm looking next week. I am looking forward to this game. Might surprise you all a little bit. Chargers Eagles. So that a couple interesting teams here. The Eagles are sitting at 3-5. They're a game out of the last wild card spot. I think the Eagles might be a dark horse for that last wild card spot in the NFC. They've shown flashes where they're pretty good, and they've shown flashes where they're not very good. And they're a young team, so you kind of expect that. And they got the Chargers at home. Chargers are coming off, a thrashing to the Ravens and then losing at home to the Patriots in a game which a lot of people thought they should win. So I'm curious to see how the Chargers deal with adversity. Going on the road to Philadelphia is a very tough place to play, no matter their record. And I'm curious to see how the Chargers respond because I could see this season it looks like the season might be starting to slip away from the Chargers a little bit.
Cody, as an avid Chargers fan, what do you have to say about that?
No, I think Kai's right. A couple weeks ago, I said I think the Chargers are legit. I'm starting to maybe think otherwise now.
Double cat's ass whammy on them.
Yeah, I did. I definitely did. Double cat. But Kai's right. The Eagles have a chance this year. If Dallas were to ever slow down, that division becomes really competitive again. But this is a big one for the Chargers. The Chargers are a half game. Well, I guess technically the Raiders are leading the division, but I don't think anybody thinks that'll last all 17 games. But, I think the race is going to come down to Chargers and Chiefs. And right now, the Chiefs look awful, and the Chargers have looked good so far, and they're a half game up on the Chiefs. So,
Eagles have a chance. I'm assuming we're mean to squeak into the playoffs.
Yes,
and that's
wild
it,
card.
right? Like
Last
wild card.
wild card.
Kyler's saying wild card.
Yeah, I don't buy it. I'm
I
selling
wouldn't.
that.
I wouldn't put
Jalen
money
Hurts is
on
the
it.
next
but
factor, but I wouldn't put money on it.
They're a half game out of the Carolina Panthers, who own the last. You got to remember, there's 7 teams in the
Nobody has
playoffs
faith
now.
in Carolina Panthers.
7
either.
teams.
Yeah, and our top 5 in our power rankings this week was all NFC teams.
Yeah, after the 6th seed in the NFC, it kind of falls off a little bit.
yeah, but you got to think, Saints are playing well, so they're not going to lose a lot probably.
Jameis is out.
And you got
All
the
the-
Niners a half game up on the Eagles, and the Niners aren't going to get worse. That's for sure.
The Saints definitely could, though, without Winston.
Yeah, they could.
Alrighty, so with Cody winning the standard eliminator that we started, we're going to start an eliminator of a different sort starting in week 9. We're going to do one against the spread and see how far we can make it with that. And by no means are these the Stone Cold, so they could end up as the Stone Cold if the Stone Cold Jeebus decides that's what they want.
Stone Colds at this point in time are more like lukewarm, but
Did I not win this week?
Wait, ice cold?
yeah, whatever.
No, I'm 5-3. That's a little bit better than 500. The Bills did cover, although it didn't look like the Bills were going to cover. They covered.
That is true. That is a little bit better than 500. That is about as well as you could say that. All right. So, Cody, as the winner of the previous eliminator, would you like to go first?
I'm taking Bills 14.5 against the Jaguars.
Solid choice.
I'll let Kai go next. I'll grant him
Kai
with the
came in second.
runner-up.
This might surprise y'all a little bit, but I'm going Dolphins at home against the Texans. They're due.
6.5 on that one.
6.5. Yep. I've
I've
got that feeling.
I don't like that one.
He's
I
trying
don't
to
like
save
that
all
one.
his. He's trying to
Carl,
save all the
yeah.
locks for the next week.
Well, when it's on spread, there aren't really locks. They're doing spread. Vegas makes it as much as 50-50 as you can.
Well, since it's spread, do we get to pick the same team twice?
No, we
Nah,
don't. As
Okay.
defending
it's
champ,
the same
no, we
rules for
don't.
everyone.
So when we all lose week one, we'll
Yeah.
just we'll get rid of
Start
that.
again.
Tune in for the new eliminator next week.
Carl, who you got?
We both lost in the same week, so go ahead, bud.
All right, I'm gonna take the Patriots minus 3.5 against the Panthers.
All right, and then
Full closure. Earlier when I decided that, I thought it said Panthers minus 3.5, but I'll stick with it. I thought I had got the Patriots plus 3.5 earlier.
he's getting there, folks. He's getting there. It's growing on him. So I'm going to take the Rams minus 7.5 over the Titans. I think losing Henry makes that big of a difference. So, and I did have it circled prior to. I had Buffalo on there. I have Cardinals minus 1 on there, and I have Packers plus 7.5 on there as well. But I decided to go with Rams. So there you go. We'll see how that eliminator kicks off. Be on the lookout on TikTok for the Stone Cold Pick of the Century of the week. And until then, be good out there and tell your grandma.